So thou, O son of man, I have set thee a watchman unto the house of Israel. Therefore, thou shalt hear the word of my mouth, and warn them from me.
Have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather expose them.
Coming to you from an undisclosed location in Middle Tennessee and examining current events from a biblical perspective, this is Bible News Radio with your hosts, Randall and Stacy Harp.
That should fix it. So we've got 3 minutes of silence to begin our show. That's cool.
Well, that's all right. Can you hear us now? See, now Gina's saying she can't hear us. You know what? I'll just turn up my own volume. I can tell you if I can hear me or not.
Well, I can hear us fine. So.
Oh, yep. Now we can. I'm hearing me okay. Alright, so you guys can hear us. Alright. Alright, so you guys can hear us, right? Put a 1, because I could hear me. Okay. Alright. Well, that's okay. All I have to do is say, welcome back, everybody. Well, not like you were here. You're gone. Well, you weren't quite here yet. So what I was saying is, today is Free for All Friday. Today we're going to look at the 4 faces of fraud, which happen to be identity, fake identity, ransomware, and digital. So in other words, yes, I'm playing the music again on purpose. Identity fraud, fake identity fraud, ransomware fraud, and digital fraud. Yeah. And I and I started to say that was funny because I ended up coming home from pickleball today, and I was sitting on my couch looking out my window when all of a sudden I heard this noise behind me, and I looked at my window, and there was this squirrel climbing up my window, getting into the bird feeder that I have stuck to my window. And you know, it's funny because I've been seeing this one little squirrel in our neighborhood, and he finally spotted the bird feeder. Yeah, only in Tennessee. I mean, you know, that bird, the squirrel's lucky that I don't have a, you know, he's lucky that he's not at my father-in-law's house. My father-in-law would take out his gun and shoot him. But anyway, so we have some video of that. But first, before we share that lovely video with you, and yeah, if you see my Instagram, you actually see some video in Instagram too. I posted it over on our Bible News Radio account. You know, I admire ingenuity in the animal world. I really do. But anyway, I see Diane and Mia, Melanie, Gina. Let's see if I can see some other people, Diane, Rex, and some other people that look like sex bots. Yeah, sex bots are here on Bible News Radio. Hold on just a second here. All right, I'm going to go ahead and share this out on our page. Of course, while I'm doing that, hey, Stephen, Bareface can come on the screen if you're ready to say hi to my handsome, hunky, manly man, who is very manly, actually.
I don't want to do that quite yet.
Oh, he doesn't? Okay. That's all right. That's all right. Okay. Good evening. All right. So there we go. We're going to go ahead and share this now on Facebook. All right. There we go. Now it's shared. So in the event that anybody decides they want to join on Facebook, I can see them, hopefully. Yeah, I can. I really need to get a haircut. You know, I mean, my hair is nice and fluffy, but it's just too fluffy.
Which one do you want to get cut?
Especially because of the humidity. You know what I mean? So, all right. So you got the squirrel video ready?
Oh, you want to do that now?
Yeah, I think we should do it first because it's funny.
Okay.
This is funny. Okay, so squirrels are they rodents by nature? I mean, are they actually part of the rodent family? Or chipmunks, rodents. One of them falls into the rodent family. Do you know which one it is? Is it the squirrel? You guys know out there? Are squirrels rodents or are chipmunks? What's the difference between a squirrel and a chipmunk?
Quite a bit.
A chimp off the old block. That's bad. I know. My bad. Okay, you just say when you're ready, okay?
I guess I'm ready.
All right, this is so funny. Okay, so I came home and this little squirrel decided it was going to get into my bird feeder, which is, by the way, populated by quite a few birds. I see doves, I see cardinals, I see little finches, I see other things. I don't know what they are. I mean, I get a lot of birds, you know, in my bird feeder. The doves are the biggest. And funny, it's so funny that the doves are huge compared to the little ones. It's like big bird. The doves are the big birds, and the little finches are the other ones. And the cardinals are the most polite. They're very sweet birds, cardinals are. You should see the girl and the boy together. They always like swap seeds and stuff, and they like nuzzle. It's so cute. Anyway, and you would never know that, right? I would never know that if I didn't have these birds literally flying at my window. But there is a term called flying squirrel, and you will see it right now.
Yeah, okay.
Yep, whenever you're ready.
Well, you were taking a while, so I thought I'd dress it up a little bit. So,
Oh.
All right, here we go.
Okay. This is funny.
All right, so there you go.
Wow, I am just now seeing it over on Periscope. Hey, everybody! It is... What was that?
That was the next video
Oh.
on your feed.
Isn't that awesome? I mean, how many of you have a squirrel come literally up to your window and get in there? Squirrels are rodents, but they're cute. Yeah. Okay.
And climbing the glass, no less. That squirrel climbed the glass. It wasn't hanging on to anything, any kind of ledge or anything, because it's just flat glass.
I wonder if they have like web feet or like a little stickiness on their feet.
The panes there are inside what look like panes of glass. It's just a cross sort of, checker sort of pattern in between two layers of glass. So it didn't have anything to hold on to.
Yeah.
So I didn't know squirrels could just climb smooth glass.
Well,
or dirty glass.
Apparently they can. I was thinking it would be kind of funny to put some tacky glue or something on the outside of the window. But I actually saw it the first time, because on my video, if you go over to Instagram and you go through my Instagram story, you actually see him in the thing. And then Randall just took some other video too. So yeah, there's no screen. There's no screen. And my cat, of course, you heard him. If you freeze it at about the 15 seconds, then what you can do is you can see the cat trying to hit the squirrel that's on the outside. It's so funny. Yeah, anyway. All right. So let's talk about the 4 faces of fraud. Now, you guys know that I joined Legal Shield as an associate, which means that I am selling it. And as a result, actually, just so you know, I will share with you my experience this week with it. As a customer, you guys know that I've been dealing with some issues with my dad and some other things, and want you to know, and actually another business too, just so you know. And anyway, I had two things that I needed to talk to a lawyer about this weekend, which I did. And I have to tell you, it was cool. I called them up and I told them my problem. They gave me a number and like a case number. And then literally within like 2 minutes, I was on the phone with the lawyer. Hi, Dottie. And I was talking to them about my 2 issues that I had. And I spent almost an hour on the phone with the attorney and actually got some really good advice and felt a little bit better because I had talked to an attorney and I knew what some of my rights were, and actually I knew a different way to go with actually both things in particular that I was talking to them about. One concerning my dad and the other concerning my just a business issue with another company. So I have to tell you, I'm just going to tell you this really fast. Legal Shield, we're going to show you a commercial in a little bit, but I want to let you know that when you join Legal Shield, and this is as a customer, not as somebody who will sell it, you get phone calls. You can call, talk to them on the phone. They will write a letter on your behalf, and trust me, a letter from an attorney does way more than you might think. They can review documents for you. You get 24/7 emergency access, which is actually a good thing. They offer residential loan document services, family and domestic related issues like separation, annulment, uncontested divorce, or adoption, name change. Some of you might have gone through this. They offer estate planning services, including your last will and testament, durable power of attorney, physician's directive, and living will. By the way, I can tell you, the older you get, the more important these things are going to be to you. So even if you're young, though, I'm going to tell you this stuff is important. Motor vehicle related services, they have that. I mean, they have this whole thing where if you get pulled over and you get a ticket, you can actually take a picture of your ticket and contact them, and they will help you with some of the issues there at hand. Anyway, and there's a lot of other services that they also offer. There's a lot of stuff. And the thing is it's all available for a little monthly fee. And if for some reason your legal issue doesn't fall into a specific category where that attorney does that, they actually have a referral network where you get a discount on an attorney. So either way, you win. So I can just tell you that for me, and I actually used them like well over a year ago, I had a really, really good experience. And I know personally that the average cost of an attorney per hour is hundreds of dollars. And I know this because when I sold my dad's house in Florida, it cost me a lot of money. Cost him a lot of money, actually. And if I had Legal Shield then, it would have been better. And actually, I did get it. Anyway.
Mind if I speak to this?
Yeah, go ahead.
When I think, this is legal insurance, think about medical insurance that costs you hundreds of dollars per month. Or if you're an individual, maybe. Maybe get it for under $200, maybe. But then there's a huge deductible. You may have like a copay for office visits, but the only thing you really get out of that, where there's no additional money out of pocket, is a once a year, exam. Physical exam once a year, usually with health insurance policies. With this legal insurance, for that low fee, what is it, like
Well, it depends on if you get it for your whole family or individual.
Well,
policy.
individuals, what?
I think it's about $24 a month. Maybe $25.
$25 a month, and all those services that you listed come with it for no additional out of pocket.
Right.
And then if there are things that fall outside of those numerous services that you mentioned, then there's a discount on top of that. So.
Well, and I can tell you, I'm in a couple of Facebook groups for Legal Shield, and I'm reading a lot of stories of people who are who actually sell it. And this one guy posted last week. I'm trying to get back into Periscope. This one guy posted last week that he was leaving New York. He was going through a subway thing, and he had, you have cards and stuff for when you go through, what do you call it? Anyway. Turnstile, yeah. Anyway, so somebody saw it. A cop came over and started to harass him and said, hey, you didn't use the right card or whatever to get through. And, he said, well, am I being detained, And they're like, well, yeah, we need to talk to you or whatever. And he said, okay, he was a black man. So he said, can you hold on just 1 minute? Would it be okay if I got my phone out of my backpack or whatever it was he was carrying? And they said, sure. So he got out his backpack, and I don't want to open up my Legal Shield app that's on my phone, but he tapped his Legal Shield button, and in there there's an emergency call button, and he said, hold on, I'm going to get my lawyer. And he called it, and he said the police, instead of dealing with that, they said, okay, no, it's our mistake, bye. Now, I don't know about you, but that probably happens way more than it should. And the fact that this man, who actually posted a picture of himself, very clean cut in a suit, looked very nice. I mean, didn't look like he's some hood or, type criminal or some type of, gang member or anything. He looked like a lawyer, he looked like a clean cut guy. And, and so stuff like that happens all the time. But I have been doing a ton of research, and maybe it's because I have a sense of justice. But I like to see evildoers get their due. I do. I just admit it. I'm an admitter that I like to see bad guys get punished. I just do. So I get all these alerts about what's going on, and I found this article today, and I posted it on my Facebook, but I want to read it to you. It's titled 4 Faces of Fraud, Fake Identity, Ransomware, and Digital. And I want to read it. It says here, realizing the wide scope of fraud should be at the top of every business executive's to-do list. So, and by the way, Legal Shield does offer business, law stuff too. For actually not a lot more. Just so you know, for some reason this is not loading. Is yours loading? I'm trying to see any comments.
Periscope?
Yeah, I'm just gonna try this. Hold on, just one more second, guys. I just want to be able to see your comments if you're making any. For some reason, this iPhone is not connecting. Okay. Anyway, it says here, realize.
Yeah, fine.
Is it?
Yep.
Okay. Well, hopefully I can see your comments, but I can't even see the screen. It shows that it's loading, but we'll give it a minute. Okay, realizing the wide scope of fraud should be at the top of every business executive's to-do list. Here are some practical advice to help you stay safe. And this is what it is, right? To stay safe. Fraud has a long history. Old-fashioned confidence schemes, scams through the mail, such as fake lotteries, or via telephone, false bill and tax collectors, and cyber attacks all share a common thread. The desire for easy cash by criminals who may never see their victims in person. So, you can kind of look at it like, hey, you're being held up, but they never see you, right? Business executives and their teams of systems and security operations pros running any critical network of devices and people, from banks and government to tech companies, insurers, and realtors, are realizing just how pervasive fraud is. The biggest development is that fraudulent activity is coming from a multitude of sources, both human and machine, okay? While ransomware and phishing attacks show up in the headlines, fraud is often an inside job conducted by unhappy employees looking to make some quick money and get revenge on their company. But the main goal of most thieves is financial gain. They can achieve it by obtaining personally identifiable information, manipulating identities, and making transactions. Or they can work from inside of a company, obtaining common business practices and policies so they know how to avoid them. This could mean working closely with a compromised employee who also stands to gain. Here are 4 major types of fraud. Okay. Number 1, identity theft. Criminals steal an existing identity to commit fraud and rob an institution. They often get one chance at this crime before their activities show up on a person's credit card statement, and thus damages are limited. Much identity theft today is carried out via email and text message phishing schemes, either targeting large groups, such as all employees at a company, or a single person based on his or her worth. And I can tell you that recently, I just read an article yesterday where 2 people had been busted, and they had like over 500 documents of people that they had done this. And I'm going to tell you something, the fines and jail time for committing these crimes is big. It's not small at all. Number 2, synthetic fraud. Some criminals have used various forms of synthetic fraud, meaning the creation of a fake identity. This can, for example, be used to steal new cars from dealers or receive tax refunds and other undeserved payments. Instead of using a real name, criminals choose a new synthetic identity and then pick up the car they ordered and drive away. Banks are now losing more to this crime than ever before, around $2 billion per year, per the research from TransUnion. That's crazy. That's a lot of money. All right, number 3, ransomware. Ransomware has exploded in the past few years. Hospitals have been entangled with ransomware that encrypts their information and demands a Bitcoin ransom since 2016. And I'm sure Joel Combs probably run into some of that as he's talked about Bitcoin on his new show. But this is a huge one too. And you know who are really susceptible to ransomwares as well are people, the elderly, older people who still use America Online, or Yahoo or something. I'm kind of being sort of funny. You can see it you can see it on Facebook. People get these things and they do and all this. And then number 4, digital fraud. Cyber attacks have a different feel, but despite the high-tech gloss, the result is the same. The motivations for such attacks can be blackmail, embarrassment, or both. Think about the 2015 Sony Entertainment hack, competitive spying, such as how Uber spied on Lyft, and even political objectives. No, I'm not saying Bitcoin is a fraud. I'm saying that there has been fraud done as a way to get money through Bitcoin. Anyway, lastly, fraud and attacks may be motivated by social objectives, such as how users of 4chan target their perceived enemies. In one case, the social blogging site Tumblr. Okay, and here's another one, and this is a big one. Reputational damage can be severe for brands, particularly those centered around security or data quality, because an increasing amount of the value of the company is tied up in its brand. The consequences of reputational damage are also increasing, which I should say also, your personal reputation as well, just so you know. The results of fraud and cyber attacks are varied as their potential targets. While having a few systems caught up in a botnet or having some crypto mining software running on your enterprise servers probably won't make too much of a dent. This can lead to worse consequences: financial losses, legal or regulatory liability for organizations holding certain types of information or failing to meet service level agreements, diminished competitive position, or loss of trust from customers and partners are all mid-level consequences of cyber attacks. And like earlier this week, we had talked about a church that got attacked, that had all of their church people exposed to what they were and everything. It wasn't actually a church. It was a church, parachurch thingy. So how do you get prepared? Okay, practical advice to help your company avoid the perils of fraud, including having an end-to-end strategy that starts with assessing the situation and taking a preemptive strike on losses. Of course, companies will vary in their tolerance for fraud based on possible losses and exposure, and thus their approach to fraud protection will need to fit appropriately. Here are a couple of things that you can do based on this article. As a first step, set parameters for the types of fraudulent activity that your organization will be focused on. So you got to know what the problem is. So you got to figure that out, right? Okay. So that's one thing. Build a comprehensive list of the different ways someone could defraud your company, and then rank the easiest and most damaging paths to the fraud. Now, I know that a lot of you are not business owners, but still, you can still do this with yourself as an individual. Introduce more thorough background checks for any employee or contractor connecting with the company and the hiring process. And you know what? Actually, background checks are not a bad thing. I have done numerous background checks on people. You may be surprised. You may be one of them. And I can tell you that that the reason a background check is important is because of character. And you might not know somebody was incarcerated, as an example, or you might not know somebody filed bankrupt. If somebody filed bankrupt, that might be a reason to go, and not that all bankrupts are because of irresponsibility. There could be, extenuating circumstances. But if you're hiring somebody, let's say in a financial position, and they have a history of bankruptcies, you might want to, ask yourself, wonder what the deal is here. Felonies, different things like that, all that stuff. So structuring ongoing checks in the future of the same persons. Case in point, no one with a criminal record, even for a petty crime, would be eligible to be employed by banking and credit institutions or government agencies. For businesses that involve sales of products such as retailers, think about warranty fraud, realizing that a certain percentage of customers will make false claims for refunds, and building rules and policies against this will enhance defenses. In fact, it was LL Bean recently was a victim of that recently, because they had this unlimited return policy on their clothes. And they had so many people who would wear all their jeans or shoes or whatever it was they bought until they got all wore out. And then they would say, oh, well, this isn't good. And then they would ask for their money back. LL Bean actually went ahead and recently alerted everybody that buys from LL Bean that great policy that they had, because they were so taken advantage of by these fraudsters, they cut it, which is really sad, really sad. More advanced steps applied to companies with thousands of transactions, such as medical or insurance billing, involve taking advantage of data mining, setting up a system and algorithm that correlates past patterns that may be fraud, and then enables real-time alerts that stop the crime in action. This is why I like ID Shield, because every day I get alerts from ID Shield, and it will tell me what it is. Especially if you're on social media, they have a whole social media monitoring thing that they do. Get outside help. In many cases, hiring a consultant with deep experience in loss prevention can be a worthy investment. I think doing a local investment, your personal investment, like I just said. And of course, it says here, seek the company of others in the fight against fraud. Many industries are creating consortiums and forums that gather business leaders together to share ideas, isolate new and emerging scams, and define best working practices that may become a new standard in the fight against fraud. As business leaders, start at the foundation of your business to prevent fraud, and teach your management staff how to think about losses and the behaviors that may cause them. Put practices in place, starting with background checks, monitoring systems, and other methods that make outsiders earn trust. Or as Ronald Reagan said, trust but verify. So there's a lot more that we're going to be talking about in the coming days on this. But, ultimately, I want y'all to be careful about what you're doing. Because you know what? I know people that have had massive headaches as a result of getting their identity stolen. And yesterday, the tip that I gave you was to actually make a photocopy of everything that you keep in your wallet at all times. Make sure that photocopy is, because in the event you lose your wallet or your wallet gets stolen, then, than that. And here's the other thing. I'll tell you this too. You know, I take care of my dad's finances. I recently lost his debit card, but because I have it in ID Shield to be monitored, I'm not worried about where it's currently at, because I haven't got, because I'm pretty sure I misplaced it here in my house, but I don't know where it is. But I'm not worried, because if somebody had taken it and already used it, I'd already know about it, because I would have already gotten an alert on it. So there you go. That's that. So what do you think, Randall? Yeah, it's good advice, actually.
What do I think about all of that?
Yeah.
It's good advice.
Yeah, I'm it looks like I'm still trying to reconnect. You know, it's so God Loves You says I never bank online for fraud reasons. Yeah, you know that but here's the thing the interesting thing is most fraud is actually done offline. It's almost equally split, but 53% is done offline. You know, so like another tip would be, if you get magazines sent to you that are unsolicited, or like in my case, I get a gazillion things sent to me from dead wives of my father. You know, just make sure you shred it all. I don't care what it is. If you get like I was talking about LL Bean. If you get an LL Bean catalog or any type of catalog, always go into there and first of all rip off your label on it. And then any cards that they have in there that they have info, you really should be taking those out and shredding them. And the reason why is because people will actually use those, and they'll charge a subscription to your name, or they'll do other things. I had an old boss when I worked at Toyota who had a very vindictive ex-wife, and his ex-wife went ahead and took hundreds of these cards out of magazines, put his name on them, subscribed him to them, and had all these subscriptions ended up showing up at his house, and there was nothing he could do about it, even though he knew she was behind it, because there's no checks and balances. I mean, these are the type of things that you want me to take that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm getting the comments. It's just not loading, you see?
Okay, well, if you've got the comments, then.
Yeah. Anyway, so, I mean, there's just people who are vicious who will do stuff like that. And I learned a long time ago to just shred everything. Shred it. And inside ID Shield, they give you all these different categories to put everything in there. And if it's a specific, like, alert for, like, a credit card or your bank or something, in fact, your passport, I know somebody just mentioned passport. There is a thing in there for the passport, too. They actually alert you, and they'll tell you right off, this is actually a financial thing, that was just hit, as opposed to maybe a social media monitoring one, which really has more to do with your reputation, which can easily be damaged online if you actually care. So someone signed my dad a magazine. Nobody told us they did. Scary. Yeah. Well, there's a lot worse things they could do that to. I mean, what it was pornography that they did it with, I mean, there is so much garbage, and there's so many evildoers out there that, it's sad that the good people who don't practice evil that way have to, protect themselves. So anyway, I don't know what it is with this phone or Periscope. Is anybody else having a problem with Periscope loading, or is it just me?
Not me. Works fine for me.
All right. So do you want to play the video? Okay, now I just refreshed. I'm back. Okay, I should say hi to some people. I think Joe is back. He's one of our super fans. Wanda's here. Sharon, nice to see you. Percy, and Word Ministry, and whoever else is there. If you shared it out and I didn't see it, thank you in advance or afterwards. I know Denise was over on Facebook, all that. So just let me know when you're ready.
What do you want me to play?
The video I sent you.
The most recent one?
Yeah.
I can do that.
Yeah, so I'm going to show you this, and then here's the thing. You can either go directly to my website and sign up and get info, or just contact me directly, and I can either text you info, I can send it to you in social media, or I can email it to you. All right? Because I really just look at the info. Just be open-minded, look at the info, and then you can make a decision once you look at the information.
From Legal Shield. First things first, what's legal protection and why should you want it? Quite simply, a legal protection plan gives you access to legal advice for a low monthly fee. Normally, lawyers are, well, expensive. We're talking approximately $250 an hour expensive. But with a Legal Shield plan, you can spend a little less than that for an entire year of access to an established law firm. So, $250 for 1 hour with a lawyer, or the peace of mind that you have access to an entire law firm when you need it. That's a pretty easy choice. If you've recently received legal assistance, this probably all sounds great. If not, you may be wondering, why would you ever need a law firm? It turns out a law firm can help with all kinds of things you may not have even realized, such as helping you with your will, traffic tickets, IRS audits, going over contracts, whatever personal legal situation you face, your law firm can help you make the best decision while ensuring you know your full legal rights. So why choose Legal Shield? For starters, Legal Shield has been in business for 40 years, and right now over 1.4 million families trust Legal Shield as their legal protection provider. Legal Shield has partnered with a dedicated full-service law firm in your state, which means you always have an established law firm dedicated to helping you. So you have legal assistance when you need it, even 24/7 access for covered emergencies. Just call your law firm and you'll speak with a lawyer about your specific personal legal issue within 8 hours or less. And download the My Legal Shield app for easy access to your law firm wherever you are when legal issues come up. As soon as you're a Legal Shield member, your law firm can give you advice on personal legal situations, write letters or make phone calls on your behalf, and review personal contracts and documents up to 15 pages in length. Plus, you're covered with 60 hours of trial and trial prep time over the next year, with an additional 60 hours added each year for the first 5 years. That means that if you're named defendant or respondent in a covered civil case, you'll have the peace of mind that a prepared, experienced attorney is on your side. Clearly, legal protection is good, and Legal Shield is the best. Now let's talk specific plans. Legal Shield has a family plan and an individual plan. The family plan covers you and family members, including your spouse or significant other, never married dependent children under 26 who are living at home or are full-time students, children up to 18 for whom you are a legal guardian, and any physically or mentally disabled child for life. The individual plan covers a single individual without any dependents. Both Legal Shield memberships include legal assistance on all personal legal matters, from the trivial to the traumatic. So whether it involves a moving traffic violation, real estate, consumer law, estate planning, or IRS tax audit, the bottom line is, yep, you need a law firm. So make the smart decision today and get the legal protection everyone deserves with Legal Shield. Worry less, live more.
Yeah, and there's a comment that you live in Canada that you can't get it, and actually, they do actually sell it. We do actually have it in Canada. It would depend on where you're at. So, you know, that would be something we'd have to look into if you were actually interested in getting it. So we'd have to talk about that, and I could find that out for sure. But it is available in Canada. Just depends on where you're at, I guess. Yeah, so there you go. That's it in a nutshell, but there's so much more. I mean, there's great opportunity to make money if you become an associate like me, or just protect yourself. You know, worry less. Worry less. Just worry less, people. All right, so, you know, and here's the other thing, too, because I don't want to make this a complete commercial for Legal Shield, but what I will say is Medicare scams are on the rise. Social Security issues are a big deal. And look, let's just face it, most of us are over 50, like Melanie. She's just turned 55, you know. Bareface is 54. I know some of you are older than that. Some of you are a couple of years younger. And the thing is, none of us are getting younger. So the older you get, you're going to be using these services, just so you know. Anyway, so, yeah, just let me know. Get in touch with me. All right, so, Randall Bear Face.
Not my real name, just so you know.
I know. You have any news you want to talk about this week? Do you all have any questions there in the chat room or on Facebook? Do you? Jordan Dunlap came in. And Mia is, I think, saying she's a spring chicken. Yeah, she is. Dorothy is a springer chicken than you are, though. Dottie is way younger, so Yep, there you go. So you have any news?
For me,
Yeah, you.
nothing to report, really. I mean, I don't watch mainstream media. All
right,
a lot
then
of times,
I have a topic then I thought
okay,
about.
go ahead.
But if you don't have anything, then I can throw out my topic.
Well, no, I don't know enough. I just catch glimpses of things, like when I'm on the elliptical machine at the rec center. I see the Trump's visit to North Korea, or well, I guess it was actually Singapore, right? The two leaders met, and just various things like that. Wildfires in Colorado, and just little pieces, little glimpses of what's going on in the world. But I don't have any more than that.
Okay, so let me ask you this question. All right, this is an internal question for people. And if you're listening to the replay and you're one of my podcast subscribers and you tune in, and I know a couple of you do, you are faithful. Yes, and I take time after the show and I give you the podcast. Here's my question. When somebody hurts your feelings, do you tell them? Okay, this is a very loaded question on so many levels, and I want to tell you why I'm asking this, because I have a hard time when somebody hurts my feelings. Like, if they really deeply hurt me, like, I have a tendency to think a lot. I think a lot, just in case, just in case you didn't know that, I actually think a lot.
Yeah, you do.
And I'm the type of person who I think through things from a million, gazillion, trillion, gazillion, bazillion ways.
I mean, to answer your question straight up, I think it's it is a loaded question. Excuse me. I hope I didn't hurt your feelings when I sneezed.
I do, only if they cross the line too much. So
yeah,
so Jordan said that. I only do if they cross the line too much.
We don't want to be snowflakes where any infraction of my comfort, whatever it might be, deserves my wrath. I mean, that's kind of silly. I'm outraged. There are things that are uncomfortable, perhaps, but nothing to neither to write home nor go to court about, nor even to really confront that individual. Yeah.
Well, okay.
But then there are some things that, they ought to be addressed.
Okay, so let's talk about the levels of hurt feelings. Okay, look, I have a theory. Yeah, I do. It's a theory. Yeah, it is. Okay, the theory that I have is that when people hurt you, a lot of people don't, and I would say actually most people do not talk about it, okay? Or deal with it in a healthy way, okay? That's what I would actually say. I would say that a lot of people, when their feelings are hurt, they usually act out in a couple different ways. Either they become very passive-aggressive, right? Oh, I'll get back to that person. And then they become passive aggressive. Okay, so Jordan says, usually I let it roll off my shoulders, but if it's too severe, I go to the person. Yeah, I mean, okay, I'm talking, maybe I should condense this. Let's say you have really close friends or your family, right? Let's talk your familial or your really close besties or whatever, and you're in a relationship with them, and they hurt your feelings. You should be able to go to your family or your best friends or your very close friends and say, hey, you know what? That hurt my feelings. And have them actually hear you, right? And say, oh, an appropriate response would be, oh, can you tell me what it was that hurt your feelings so maybe I don't do it again? That's one thing. And then you say, well, yeah, you did blah, 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 and all that. But if the person doesn't actually hear you and they get all defensive, about it, it makes it difficult, right? Because you go to them, you explain to them, that hurt my feelings, and they're like, whatever. And a lot of people become very passive aggressive. They'll either withdraw, or they'll push, or they will, they'll turn into attack mode, like, hey, this is all your issue, and all that. And so, the interesting thing to me is that I actually think a lot of people get hurt. They don't talk about it, and this is what leads to divorce. This is what leads to misunderstandings. This is what leads to companies breaking up in business, and all that. And so I was just curious how many of you actually, if your feelings got hurt, how many of you actually, how many of you actually tell people when your feelings are hurt? I know Randall doesn't, not really.
Well,
because he's so thick-skinned. He's a rhino.
Our Lord instructs us in Matthew chapter 18, if a brother trespasses against you, or metao, I think is the Greek there, basically sins against you, and some English translations say that, sins against you. What does that mean? Well, I don't know. I know what it means, but I think that can be somewhat subjective. Sin against you. Scripture says that whatever is not from faith is sin. We can look at the 613 commands in the Old Testament and determine, what sin is. But the Lord Himself gives instruction for a brother who sins against you, and that's to take it to them, tell them their fault, and try to win them back. In 1 Corinthians chapter 6, Paul writing to the Corinthians, of course, believers, saying, chastising them for taking one another to court, suing one another.
A lot of believers do that.
Yeah, and he says, why not rather be wronged? Why not rather be defrauded?
It's such a great testimony in the Christian world, suing fellow believers.
Yeah, and we ought not to do that. When it comes to the actions of unbelievers, well, I have to go back to the instruction of our Lord, who tells us that, to bless those who persecute you, pray for those who spitefully use you, etc., etc. Do good to them that do evil to you. So, when it comes to, whether hurt feelings is a sin against you, it could be. It seems like the instruction to believers is to take it to them. Don't take it to court. Even if it rises to that level, believers ought not to be taking other believers to court. That it should be dealt with in the body, and just like the individual offenses, in Matthew 18. Take it to that person. If they don't hear you, take with them, take it to 2 or 3 others, 2 or 3 other witnesses. Not the idea is, 2 or 3 witnesses, not just people who sure, I'll get in this fight or whatever. Someone who can testify to the fault or the sin committed against you. And then when it comes to unbelievers, we're basically told to do good to them. So coming back to the question, should we, if someone hurts our feelings, should we tell them about it? Well, if it's a matter of they've sinned against us, yes, we should. We should go to them and try to restore that relationship. That's the whole.
What do you do if they say, "I'm sorry that you feel that way"?
Well,
see, that irritates me to no end. When somebody apologizes and it's a non-apology apology, that drives me up a wall. There's actually a book called 5 Languages of Apology. And different people need to be apologized to differently. But when somebody says, "Well, I'm sorry that you feel that way," well, it's like, really? Because that's not really an apology. That's not acknowledging a person's feelings and saying, "You know what? I really am sorry that I actually hurt your feelings. It was unintentional. I would never hurt you on purpose." As opposed to,
right. Yeah.
That just, really. Maybe it's my communications background, but words really matter.
Yeah, I was going to say we'll change the names to protect the innocent, but I won't even use names. I recently had a conversation, and since it was in Facebook Messenger, I have this, and that came up where someone was saying, I'm sorry that you, and asked me, well, I'm sorry that you feel that way, and asking my opinion. And I responded that only that person, the Lord, knows their heart. I believe that I'm sorry that you takes no personal responsibility. Unfortunately, too many people say such things. It may be because they are afraid of being vulnerable. I trust more people who will say, I'm sorry that I.
Right.
Or better yet, please forgive me for.
Right.
It doesn't mean that.
Preach it.
It doesn't mean that those that say things like, I'm sorry that you, are worse people. It just means that I don't think I can trust them with personal things. And then I quoted Oswald Chambers, who said, you can always recognize who has been through the fires of sorrow and received himself, and you know that you can go to him in your moment of trouble and find that he has plenty of time for you. But if a person has not been through the fires of sorrow, he is apt to be contemptuous, having no respect or time for you, only turning you away. If you will receive yourself in the fires of sorrow, God will make you nourishment for other people. And if you read that whole whatever sort of sermonette, you'll find that in my utmost for his highest, and it's called Receiving Yourself in the Flames of Sorrow. It talks about when you go through difficult things, basically it makes you bitter or better, to borrow modern language, that hopefully when you go through tough times, rather than just making you bitter, it'll consume any shallowness, and you'll get an accurate take on yourself, receiving yourself, and it's humbling and removes shallowness, for lack of a better word, which makes you able to sympathize and empathize better with others. So yeah, I take I'm sorry that you, either you feel that way or I'm sorry that you, fill in the blank, rather than I'm sorry that I. If it's I'm sorry that you, that tells me that's a person who is like I say, they're afraid of being vulnerable, and that they're really guarded, or they've not, quote, received themselves through the flames of sorrow. They lack that experience that makes them sensitive and empathetic.
Yeah,
to the pain of others.
I agree. It takes maturity to be to take personal responsibility. And there's a lot of people out there who pretend that they're all that in a bag of chips, and they're really not. I'm thinking of a particular talk show host I used to listen to who knows all the language. She has all the, the connections to all the mental health experts, has read all the books. But when it comes to actually apologizing and taking ownership for hurting people in her audience, she can't do it. And it's interesting to me that often people will accuse you of something that they don't even take responsibility for. It's always a red flag to me when somebody says, well, you did this and you did that, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, why don't you just talk about your own feelings instead of analyzing me? And talking about my feelings or your perception of my feelings, because your perception is inaccurate, just so you know. But then if you say that, it's like, well, no, you're just being defensive. Oh, really now? Okay, here's the mirror. Look at it. It bothers me because, and I'm going to actually pose this question on my Facebook page. I ask a lot of fun questions, but I think I am going to ask this of my audience and say, hey, is it easy for you to tell other people when they hurt your feelings, whether it's legitimate or not? to that person, it should be legitimate to you, and and how you feel, because your feelings matter. And frankly, a lot of us who grew up abused, our feelings didn't matter to most people, especially in our family of origin. If your family used you as an object, like I was used, and some of you were used, then they didn't give a crap about you or your feelings. So if you were crying, and a lot of us did that, let's say, for example, I was molested. Oh, I was. Yeah, I was for like years. Okay. And when I went and told my mother, do you think that she actually apologized for it? Nope. Do you think that she gave a crap? Nope. She protected the perpetrator's butt, not mine. And I have to say that my feelings were completely invalidated as a result of that. And so what that taught me was, don't share your feelings. Don't talk about when your feelings are hurt, because nobody gives a crap about it. So getting to the point where, you can, and you do. I mean, I do with Randall all the time. He's a poor guy. He's like, okay, let's just talk. What do you need? I need a hug. Or whatever. Can you get me some chocolate? That would help. Actually, chocolate and me really don't agree. I've learned this. But anyway.
Philosophical differences or spiritual incompatibility? Or
no, I think just biologically. But anyway, and in all seriousness, it's like, okay, people have to want to be vulnerable enough to actually be able to receive your pain. You talk about, going through that. A lot of people won't. They'll pretend that they do. Yeah, narcissists are classic at this. They'll manipulate you, and they'll pretend that you're a friend, and then once you get into the relationship, it becomes all one-sided, all about them, and
that may be the case. I think it's important though that we can't make somebody be sensitive or that's not our motivation in telling someone they're hurt. Shouldn't be, well, I'm going to show you, or I'm going to teach you, or I'm going to going back to Matthew chapter 18, when someone sins against you or trespasses against you, it's all about all these steps to restore that person to fellowship. And then really, Paul didn't say anything that Jesus didn't say. I mean, in spirit, Galatians chapter 6, brethren, if a man be overtaken in a fault, ye which are spiritual, restore such a one in a spirit of meekness, considering thyself, lest thou also be tempted. Because it is tempting to you can be tempted if they're overtaken in a fault, not they're going to be tempted in the same fault or the same sin or the same thing, but there's a temptation to be superior or to get angry with them or whatever. That's why you are spiritual. Restore such a one in a spirit of meekness, considering thyself, lest thou also be tempted. And so, yeah, it's easier said than done. But I think that, I don't think, this is what I read. This is the instruction of Scripture, and this is Bible News Radio, so I think it's fair to bring Bible text into it. It's tough, yeah, being offended by someone, literally.
Right.
Not feeling offended, but actually being offended, again, when it's non-believer, it's like, well, then we need to not retaliate in turn. Have that mind which was in Christ Jesus, who said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. But when it comes to believers and their sins against us, again, what I read in Scripture is all about restoring that person, a spirit of gentleness, and with the goal, the motivation, the entire time. Whether it's you and they don't listen, you bring 2 or 3 witnesses. They don't listen, then tell them to the church. All along that road is to restore that person to peaceful relationship. And if they don't hear the entire church, then it says to basically disfellowship them.
Would you agree that there has to be a modicum of safety within the relationship? And like even in the church, like let's say for example, spiritual abuse is rampant, big time in churches. You know, you gotta, you know, it doesn't matter what church. There's pedophiles, there's abusers, there's domestic violence. There's all
maybe
that.
not all of them in a single congregation, but
Well, there might be, but it's still in the church, right? So, you know, let's say you go ahead and, you know, you're trying to do the Matthew 18, but you have a leadership that isn't obedient to Matthew 18 because they're egomaniacs and they're full of themselves and they think they're all that in a bag of chips. And they think that just because they're the spiritual leaders that they can do whatever they want in elders meetings and kick you to the curb.
well, then
Twist things, blame you for stuff. It's like,
sure, then it's
then you need Legal Shield so you can sue their butt.
that's right.
That's-
'Cause that's what we find. That's what we read in 1 Corinthians chapter 6. That's another occasion of someone sinning against you and
Right.
and trying to restore that relationship. And
I guess
if they won't, again, if they won't hear it, you know, you take 2 or 3 others and they don't hear them, and then you take the rest of the congregation, not just the leadership, take the rest of the congregation, and they still won't hear it. If they say, hey, we're above that, and who do you think you are, then it says to, you know, basically disfellowship them. Well, if the congregation doesn't have the chutzpah or the biblical fortitude and knowledge to eject their leadership, then those in the congregation should seek leaders elsewhere.
Yeah. Well, there's and then you have the opposite where you also have cults where you have vulnerable people who are involved. Like there's, I forgot the name of the church, you might recall. But basically what they do is they have everybody confess their sin to one another.
Yeah.
And then they use that against you if you try to
Right.
leave. They go,
Right.
oh, well, you did this, you did
Right.
that. You know, and they get them
Heard of
hooked into
Sure.
that type of thing. So I don't know. Anyway,
Heard many a testimony.
it's a big question, honestly, because if you look at the issue of spiritual abuse, you look at emotional abuse, you look at physical, domestic, sexual abuse, and how that can impact you in your relationship,
Sure.
and how you actually go about sharing with people that your feelings have been hurt. It really can give you pause, right? Because, you know, here's something that really bothers me, and it does bother me. People who tell me that they love me and don't know me really irritates me big time. Don't tell me you love me, okay? Just don't do it.
Don't tell me you love me.
No, I'm serious. Don't tell me you love me.
Don't tell me you love me.
Don't tell me you love me.
Tell me I
Stop telling me you-
want to know. Anyway.
Okay, stop telling me you love me because, you know, real love
Poisoned by secular music.
is, you know, real love isn't what most people claim, right? Don't tell me you love me if you're not going to work through something or whatever, right? I would much rather have a relationship based on trust and safety than love any day. Because if I can trust you, ultimately that will lead me to loving you. If I can't trust you and you violate my trust, then, you know, loving people doesn't mean that you're always perfect in a relationship, but love and trust and safety are very important in a relationship if you're going to be able to grow and develop as a person.
Yeah, fortunately, the Lord has proven himself trustworthy.
Well, obviously, with the exception of him, right? And, you know, actually, the Bible says that he didn't entrust himself to anybody.
Right.
Right? He had 3
Because he knew
BFFs.
what was in man.
Yeah, he had 3 BFFs that fell asleep when he needed them the most, just so
Right.
you know.
Yep.
He said, hey, dudes, can you pray for me? I'm going through a heck of a lot over here. And meanwhile, he went and drops of blood, which is, you know, like pretty painful. I don't think any of you have ever sweat drops of blood. If you have, let me know. I'd like to talk to you about it. Because...
But human relationships are flawed and messy for sure.
Right.
How late are we going to go?
Well, I don't know. We were kind of on Free for All Friday going like 15 after.
Yeah. We're 5 minutes past the
So
hour
Mama
now.
Gina says, "Okay, oh Stacy, okay, but I love you and won't steal your identity." Well, I'll
That's
find
good
out
to
it's
know.
you anyway. No, you know what I mean. I'm not talking the blanket. Hey, I love you. I love everybody. Oh, it's a love fest. I'm talking in your real relationships, not your surfacey ones. The real relationships are built on solid trust and commitment and honesty and integrity. And honestly looking out for the best interest of that other person. Like I know with certain friends of mine who I love literally with all of my heart, I will be in more pain for myself than do whatever I have to so that I don't inflict pain on them because I love them that much. Like Bareface, like there are things that I'll do because I love him more. And even though it's uncomfortable for me, I'll do it. Like, for example, putting the towel, hanging it back up at the kitchen sink because it's so painful to do.
I know it's quite the inconvenience.
But it builds trust, right, when I do it because he'll go, "Aw, I noticed that you did that for me." And I'll go, "Yeah, it's because I love you." Okay, I'm being a little bit facetious, but not completely.
Completely.
Yeah. By the way, we should say thank you to Ariel
We
Ministries.
certainly should do that.
This is the last day that we're going to be talking about Hamashiach, the book, which you can get 20% off at ariel.org.
Let me put that up, and then I'll
Bareface is going to put
pop
that up.
over to here where they can see the book. BibleNewsRadio.com/recommended-resources, or just click the resources link at the top of the page. There are several resources there.
Yeah, just out of curiosity, have any of you bought anything from Ariel Ministries in the last couple of months? If so, I'd like to know, because I'd love to thank you personally for it. If you have.
Indeed, this month, free for download, Present Work of the Messiah.
JR said, "Yes, sing Tell Me You Love Me" by Randall. Hi, JR. Actually, I love JR. JR's cool. JR is one of the nicest men I've ever met in my life. True story. He loves people, and he has a heart to help people who need to learn how to play pickleball, just so you know. Yeah, if you haven't downloaded the Bible study there, go get it.
We are back to work.
Wow, we're
Sorry.
back to work. I don't know what that was about.
Oh, that was an ad.
Oh, it was an ad.
Yeah.
Oh. All right.
Oh, I was going to play something, but I can't because then
What were
it'll
you?
get removed from Facebook.
Oh.
So never mind. Never mind.
Oh, you were going to play the song.
Yeah.
Yeah, because of Facebook's rules, we don't want our show deleted, so we can't do it. Darn it.
It's a good thing I remembered before I hit play.
Yeah.
And well, it's actually a good thing there's an ad up front.
All right. The other thing is, if you do want info about ID Shield or Legal Shield, go to bit.ly/protect me, all capitals, protect me, or just go there to our Bible News Radio page. It's right there on our
sponsors
Our
page.
sponsor page. And of course, certainly not least important anyway, if you're a pillar of our community, thank you for donating to the show every month. We appreciate it a lot, actually, more than you know. So I want to say thank you. If you want to be a pillar, if you're somebody that tunes in all the time and you're getting blessed by what we do, or even annoyed or challenged, yeah, you are, then become a pillar at BibleNewsRadio.com/give. So we're actually making other ways for you to be able to support the show. So like we suggest $25 to become a pillar because, I do add additional benefit and value to all you guys. But if you want to support our show for $10, become a member of ID Shield. You not only get all the identity theft protection, but we'll get the benefit as a result if you sign up under us, which would be super cool. $10 a month, I think it is. Basically $10 a month. All right. So there's that. Okay. So next week, do I have any guests? Wait, I think I do. Next week, hold on a minute. Yeah, I have one lady on who's going to be talking about, and this is interesting. She wrote a book called, what was it called? Something about sleeping in bed with a snake or something like that. And anyway, you know, if you struggle with sexual issues like masturbation or pornography or illicit sex outside of marriage or homosexuality or committing adultery or whatever, lustful thoughts, anything related to sex issue, then you're going to want to tune in on Thursday and hear my guest, because she's written a book about all her struggles in that area, how she got married. Her husband went on the down low with some men. And anyway, she worked through it and anyways, is now going to come on our show and testify about how you can work through your stuff. I've actually started reading her book. I'll probably have it done by the time of our interview. It's actually very compelling. And you know why? It's because it's real. That's why. You know, it really is. It's very real and raw. And so that's one guest we have next week. So I hope you guys can tune in for that. Also, if there's any topic of interest to you guys, make sure you message me and tell me, you know, hey, you know, I want you to talk about blah, 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 blah. If you have any Bible questions or anything like that, make sure that you send them our way. And Randall can answer all of those. Just kidding. I might be able to, depending on what it is. Or if we can't, then we'll get somebody who can, right? You know what I mean? So those issues are all very important. I don't look at Bible News Radio as a cotton candy show, like, you know, bubblegum candy. Hi, Nigel. You know, bubblegum Christian music. You know, like Jamie Grace calls her songs bubblegum often. You know, like oh, they're happy and peppy and blah 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 blah. I don't look at our show that way. I look at our show as a tough show. You know, we have real guests, real issues we talk about openly and without shame, and hopefully with some humor, in order to be real. You know, hey, there's a cost to becoming real, and there's so many people who are so sick and tired of the fakeness. You know what I mean? They're like, I'm so sick of this. Why should I go to church? Because everybody there is plastic. You know, they're fakers. You know, they're phonies. And it's like, you know what? Hey, the number one compliment I get is what you see is what you get. They might not always like what I have to say, but at least you know where you stand with me. Right? and you know what's really funny is when Randall and I left California, I remember this so clearly. When we left, we had a going away party at our house and invited all of my closer friends. So there's probably about 20 people there. I don't have a lot of friends. But, you know, I had some of my good friends from grad school and other things. And the one thing that stood out to me about every one of my friends is that they're all open, honest, and direct. Every single one of them. Now, some of them are shyer than others, but I was like, you know, I was just really compelled by the fact that they were all so honest and real. It's like I never had to question where they stood, you know, about anything, you know, and if I ticked them off, they'd let me know. Some of you are that way, you know. So, yeah, didn't that stand out to you? I don't know about Randall.
I hadn't thought about it.
He's got 2 friends, and I'm half of that, so it's like...
Yeah.
Men don't need friends. Not like we do. He wants me to shut up. He just went like that. Come on, wrap it up, girl. Wrap it up. Wrap it up in a bow. Okay. So, before we go, though, when are you going to share with us your brand new song?
Sometime next week.
Next week?
Yeah.
All right. Next week, Bareface is... What's the name of your song that you did?
It's not my song. It's my arrangement.
Okay, what's the arrangement?
It's my arrangement of It Is Well With My Soul.
It Is Well With My Soul. I've heard of that before.
That's right.
His thing is so awesome. It will make you cry. It made me cry. Yeah, Nigel says, yeah, well, talking about certain things is hard. I'm scared. You know what, Nigel? I am too. And hi, Annie. You know, one of the things we were just talking about is, do you tell people when they hurt your feelings? I would argue that people who are heavily addicted to stuff don't. I think that's a big problem. And then there are people that are addicted to arguing with other people. They just want to fight. So it's like, all right, I'm going to tell you whatever. Anyway, how many? Okay, before we go, just want to ask you all this question. Put a 1 or a 2. It doesn't matter in the box. If you would like us to begin to discuss like communication and relationship issues, then please let me know by putting a 1 or a 2 in our box, because my background as a counselor, I have a lot of stuff, a lot of resources, and I really have been having on my heart to do that a lot more, but I don't want to do it unless you all want that. You want that, so let us know, okay? And on that happy note, be bold, people. Stand up, people, and go with God. You know what I mean? Because He loves you. And we'll see you on Monday.